Today, Old School RuneScape announced some massive changes that are going to affect everyone. With the official Old School RuneScape blog post stating on November 17th, they'll be capping the duel arena to a maximum of 10 million GP per stake. Currently, as the duel arena stands, there's a tax system that happens every time you enter a stake with another person. It takes a percentage of the GP won at the end of the stake and deletes that GP out of the game, making the duel arena one of the biggest gold sinks in the entire game, which bridges us over to today's update announcement, a proposed grand exchange tax that's going to affect all of us. Currently, how the Old School RuneScape economy works is if there's more gold coming into the game than there is leaving, then we experience an inflation. The value of gold falls, so items cost more to compensate for the value of gold. Now, if the demand for an item goes up, it will rise in price. If the supply of an item is higher than the demand, prices will go down. That's basically the economy in a nutshell, and it sort of works like that in real life as well. And because of that, Jagex hired actual real-world economists to help the economy issue. And in short, to wrap that back around to the staking cap, Jagex needs to find a way to remove GP now that they can't remove it anymore in the duel arena. Introducing today's official update proposal, a grand exchange tax. Jagex is thinking of adding a tax amount of 2% that would be removed from the final sale value of items. This means there will be no change to what the buyer pays, as the tax costs will be passed on to the seller. In the case of selling multiple stacks, the tax will be applied per item sold rather than the total amount received. The grand exchange interface would be updated to clearly show how much tax the seller would have to pay if their sale is successful, avoiding any hidden costs. To be honest, guys, it sounds like Jagex at the moment is sort of desperate to get rid of GP, seeing how the economy has been going as of late. They're right, they need to do something, but they probably shouldn't be taking it out on us players as much as this. So basically, they're going to tax us for the better good of the game, but there is going to be no reward or anything like that. You're just going to lose your GP. Now, Jagex also states, while the introduction of a grand exchange sales tax helps reduce the amount of gold in-game, it doesn't reduce the number of items available. Old School RuneScape has almost no mechanisms where items can be removed from the game, besides a few select items like the Abyssal Tentacle, which consumes the whip, but that only sinks very specific items, so it's not a scalable solution according to Jagex. They suggest they can use items as payment for in-game fees. For example, Death's Coffer always allows players to sacrifice any tradable item worth more than 10,000 coins, adding their value plus 5% into a coffer that can pay down certain in-game fees. They state that this can work for any item in theory, but in practice, the fees in-game are so low that players need to never sacrifice any high-end items like this, which is true. It probably wouldn't be that effective. Now, Jagex also said with the introduction of a grand exchange tax, there's a huge opportunity to introduce effective and scalable item sinks. They're suggesting they could use the tax collected from grand exchange sales to purchase items from other players with the simple intention of deleting said items once the purchase is complete. Essentially, they're saying rather than just deleting the coins that are taxed, they can spend them on buying items off players and then delete those items. They're also saying this doesn't need to be the case for every item in game, but they'd have the flexibility to pick and choose which ones they would delete. Now, they also mentioned the system of how this will actually work. When a tax trade takes place through the grand exchange, they'd allocate an amount of wealth from those taxes to a virtual coffer. This coffer would be used to fund the purchase of specific items that's chosen by us and based on the estimated quantity of the item entering the game per day and the amount they'd like it reduced. This is what they say would happen when a player creates a sell offer for an applicable item. If the virtual coffer's funds are below a specified item's value, we do not interfere because we cannot afford to buy the item. The player's sell offer is created normally on the grand exchange. If we've already removed the required amount of items for the day, we do not interfere because we don't want to create supply issues. Again, the player's sell offer is created normally on the grand exchange. If the virtual coffer has enough funds and the number of items removed for the day hasn't yet hit the limit, then instead of creating a sell offer, we delete the item and immediately pay the player a number of coins minus the Grand Exchange tax. And they added an estimate list of what items they think they're going to start buying with the Grand Exchange tax item sync method. Spectral and Arcane Shields, Nightmare Staff and Orbs, Twisted Bow, Elder Maul, Kodai Insignia, Din's Bulwark, Prayer Reward Scrolls, God Swords, Armadillo Armor, Bando's Armor, Saradomin Sword, Zamarakian Spear, Abyssal Bludgeon, Kraken Tentacle, Trident, Dark Bow, Smoke Battle Staff, Occult Necklace, and the Toxic Blowpipe. They want to mention that this is not final and it's subject to change, and if there's any other items we think that they should add. Now, after seeing everything in detail, I think it's pretty cool that they're actually worrying about the economy. It has been in shambles for quite some time, with all high-ticket items dropping significantly in price, along with lower-ticket items also dropping in price, meaning the value of gold really isn't that high anymore. Now, I don't believe they should be taxing all of our trades, because that's going to affect people who do flipping, merching, and on top of that, we're literally losing GP with no actual benefit to our accounts. Although we are benefiting the economy as a whole, it would be nice to see if Jagex would put something that's going to give us some sort of bonuses or some sort of unique cosmetic or something cool like that. Now, that wasn't the only huge change they're proposing to add into Old School RuneScape. Jagex also mentioned they want to put in additional bank space, but for a cost. They mentioned that in the past, they've been held back by technical constraints, but they have some good news to share. Following some game engine changes, they've been carrying out tests, and they can now increase your bank by a lot. The current bank size for every members player is 800 and 400 for free to play. However, 8 extra spaces are given for having a bank pin and a further 8 for enabling an authenticator. So technically, the maximum bank size is actually 816. However, with this potential update, the maximum size could be increased to a whopping 1,200 bank spaces. That's quite a bit. Jagex is proposing you'll be able to go to any banker and pay them for additional bank space. Bankers will be able to sell bank space in blocks of 40, with each block costing more than the last. You'll of course be able to buy multiple blocks of space in one if you're feeling flush. Buying bank space would be a non-refundable and permanent unlocked. Let's look at the cost of each bank space block. You can buy one block of bank space, which would boost you by 40 for 1 million GP. The second 2 million, third 5 million, fourth 10 million, fifth 20 million, sixth 50 million, seventh 100 million, eighth 200 million, and ninth 500 million for a total of 888 million GP. That's a lot of GP for bank spaces. I'm not sure if that has much use to the typical player. So basically, you can expect if you're just an average player, you probably won't have the maximum bank space unless you want to spend nearly 1 billion GP on it. But the first few slots don't sound that bad. All the way up to around 10 million GP, boosting your total bank space to 960. That's pretty reasonable to spend 1, 2, 5, and 10 million GP on each of those for a total of 18 million for all those spaces. They also mentioned with all the above, there are still 40 bank spaces left over. As before, these extra spaces will be given for having a bank pin and authenticator. However, it's not just 8 spaces for each. Now it'll be 20. At least that's a pretty good thing, because we'll be gaining extra bank space just for having an auth and also a bank pin, which everyone should have on anyway. So it's just free bank space. Now, aside from bank spaces, grand exchange taxes, and staking caps, they want to put in a literal gold sink. Jagex starts us off by basically assuming that they know how much we like to show off our wealth, which is sort of true, because I like rocking expensive gear like an Ellie and stuff like that and a nice pet, because that looks pretty fashionscape. But they go on to say, what better way to showcase how deep your pockets run than by adding a sink made of gold into your player-owned house? They basically suggested that they're going to have mounted coins for 100.1 million GP, a crystal throne for 14.7 million GP, which sounds pretty cool, a demonic throne for 24.5 million, most gilded furniture for 200k, marble furniture for 400,000 GP. And in other news, they finally released that they'll be doing a Deadman Mode Reborn final rerun. So everyone who was in the Deadman Mode finals or likes to watch it on Twitch, they will be doing another one, since the last one, in short, was a complete disaster. I'm not going to go too in-depth since a lot of you don't play Deadman mode. Maybe a lot of you may watch it, but this is mainly for the people who are going to compete in the tournament to be excited about. But nonetheless, it's pretty cool to see Jagex owning up to their mistake and offering a complete final rerun. I'm assuming the prizes are going to be the same and somebody's going to take away that $32,000 prize again. And quickly before you go, I appreciate that you made it this far in the video. So I'm going to toss one of you a full set of Dragon, an Abyssal Whip with a cannon set. Just like the video, leave your RuneScape name in the comment section below so I know how to contact you. And subscribe so you can be sure to see my new uploads right when they come out.